because it's like convenient and we'd be doing this anyway. He's kind of missing the issue. The issue is that we are doing it and that we're even attacking anyone with drones. This is actually referring to Pakistan. And this is saying there is an unofficial but lethal drone war taking place over Pakistan, Yemen, and Libya that has expanded the area of operation for the U.S. forces beyond Iraq and Afghanistan, with no real acknowledgement from the government that anything extraordinary is happening. The undeclared conflict on these three fronts might be the first drone war. The warfare has never seen, and warfare has never seen anything like it. That's part of the article. So basically, we have a general saying that it's no big deal, and they're just gonna keep expanding and not telling anyone about it. They're killing lots of civilians with these. I'm reading from worldnewsco.com that the Libyan government has claimed the attack, which had lasted for 5 days, had killed nearly 100 civilians. Western governments are accused of being behind the rebels in Libya. That might be a pretty bold statement, but this is published on March 24th. So apparently there are reports of massive civilian casualties about a week after the attack. And then I'm reading from another article, 5 undisputed NATO bombings of Libyan civilians. This was published on July 9th, and there's 5 different cases here. One on May 13th, and then 3 more from June 20th, 16th, 6th, and another one that just says late June. And these all add up to about 100 deaths of civilians and many, many more injuries. So the fact that we're over there for humanitarian reasons seems kind of silly if we're killing the people we're trying to save. And even the fact that we're using robots, it's a scary concept. We're really having robot wars. This is like from Terminator. I don't know. It's the way of the future, I guess. So now I'm going to talk about another interesting character, Ben Bernanke. Ben Bernanke is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and they are deeply involved in how our government handles the debt crisis and the falling economy. In October 31st, 2007, Ben Bernanke said, "It is not the responsibility of the Federal Reserve, nor would it be appropriate, to protect lenders or investors from the consequences of their decisions." Now, the Federal Reserve was created as a failsafe in case the banks made bad decisions. They were made so if any banks failed, the people's money was insured. It basically created a unified banking under the federal government, also known as central banking, that Thomas Jefferson warned about hundreds of years ago, or 100 and something years ago. And he said that a standing army would be less threatening to the American public than a centralized bank. So we're at that point already. So whatever. I guess Thomas Jefferson wasn't that smart. I mean, according to these people. So he's saying that it doesn't do what it was designed to do. That's why the Federal Reserve exists. They're there to as like a failsafe. This guy also designed or is responsible for the QE1 and the QE2. That's quantitative easing 1 and 2. You also known as the stimulus package. Obama, part of QE1 was a stimulus package, $800 billion stimulus package. And QE1 in total cost us $1.7 trillion, and QE2 cost $600 billion. That's $2.3 trillion that we spent. So Ben Bernanke apparently believes that the only way to get out of debt is to spend out of debt. I have 2 quotes from him that are actually from today, July 14th. "I only ask that, as Congress looks at the timing and composition of its changes to the budget, that it does take into account that in the very near term the recovery is still rather fragile, and that sharp and excessive cuts in the very short term would be potentially damaging to the recovery." And then he's talking about the debt ceiling and defaulting, and he said, if we were to default, quote, "it would be a calamitous outcome. It would create a very severe financial shock that would have our effects not only in the U.S. economy but the global economy. So in the first quote, he's saying that Congress needs to spend more after we've already issued QE1 and QE2, which spent $2.3 billion in budget. He says we need to spend more, and they can't cut from it. He advises they don't cut from it. He's basically doing his job now, I guess, if you he's doing it poorly, but he's doing his job now, to care about the banks and its investors and loaners, and he's giving them bad advice, and he's saying that when we default, it's going to be calamitous, so we need to keep spending. We're going to default. It's over. Like, our debt is beyond, far beyond anything you could ever imagine. So we're not going to recover from this. We're going to default eventually. We can't just keep spending. The debt's getting bigger and bigger every day. We're expanding war every single day. We're not going to be able to pay this off. So he's saying that we need to keep spending so the shock isn't so bad. And the shock's only going to get worse. As we keep this monster going, it's only going to be worse when it breaks down. So there, Bernanke is he's just out of control. He doesn't really have anything good to say, ever. He never really says anything that's legitimate. He has no desire to stop printing money. That's what the Federal Reserve does too. They issue money, so they print all the money and loan it out to our government. I mean, basically, if the government was a person, they would be 8 or 9 credit cards in, paying off the debt of their one credit card with other credit cards. So we're pretty much screwed. There's no way out of that. I just wanted to close this by saying that I do have a solution to how people can get out of this bad slump with these politicians constantly lying and constantly trying to double speak at you and trying to say things that make no sense and act like they do. I feel like the reason, if any reason, that people buy into this is because they're too entrenched in binary thought. What binary thought is it's the thought of everything in yes or no. It's either black or white. It's either hot or cold. A few examples are pro-life versus pro-choice, pro-gun versus anti-gun, Obamacare versus anti-Obamacare, Republican versus Democrat, and the list goes on. And thinking this way it's dangerous. You need to realize that it's not just black and white. There's an infinite shades of gray in between. If you think of everything yes or no, black or white, it's just not going to work out. You can't come with a good solution. And these politicians, they just continue to double speak at you and say things that make no sense. And they still keep their message of either yes or no, of black or white. So you end up with this you really can't comprehend what they've said or what their point is. So you just have to hold on to one or two things. Like you have, I can be pro-choice or I can be anti-choice. So I mean, I'm not saying everyone is in binary thought, but we wouldn't be having to deal with people like these politicians, if everyone understood how dangerous binary thought is. So that's my essay on politicians and their lying, and hope you all have a good day.